Hi, welcome to my political show, Kavindu Political Times. Before start the show, I want to hit the like button and subscribe to my show, and also follow me on Twitter and also follow me on Instagram under the name Kavindu. Please follow me on Instagram. If there's anything you want, any postings you want to put and such stuff, follow me on Instagram. So now let's get started. Now, as you all know, right now the world is looking at Afghanistan, where Taliban is now pretty much taking control at this point, taking control of Taliban or taking off Afghanistan at the point. The Afghan president has now have fled the country at the moment, and the United States is now taking the American people, the American citizens who are working in Afghanistan out of the country at this point. So you might ask, is this the fault of the Biden administration for not handling this right or not? We will find out, and I tell you why it's not, but yet it might be. So now let's get started. Now, to understand the scenario you are living in, we got to go back 21 years or 20 years. I want to go back. 2001 comes in 9/11. After 9/11, the United States start looking to destroy terrorism. Only way to go to terrorism was in the Middle East, so they invade Afghanistan. And what begins as a job of taking out terrorism, of terrorism plots and things becomes into something else, political reforms, something else. Technically, then it becomes a country that needs to be rebuilding. That's what the US does. They end up rebuilding an entire country. That's what happens. So a simple job like that become what it now right now. So it's not to say that's bad. Of course, the United States went to Afghanistan and did what it has to do. Now, in terms of the original agenda, the United States have accomplished everything that they want to actually achieve. They have managed to get rid of terrorism a certain way, terror groups from Afghanistan during their job, and major achievements. However, there are things that they have continuously ignored, because what truly happened was, once those goals were achieved, the job the United States had in Afghanistan became into something else. Then it became a job about reviving the country, political reforms, forming governments, things like that. What happened was, things like that became a focus. Now, once you start getting involved in the political process and writing laws, things like that in a foreign country, the United States simply became the bearer of responsibilities on things in Afghanistan, even though it should not be. Because the Afghan government so far have showed their lack of ability to defend their own country. Remember, for the last 20 years, the United States and many European allies have trained Afghan forces. For 20 years, they gave them intelligence, weapons, money, military bases, everything you can probably ask to defend yourself from the Taliban. So what does Afghanistan does? The moment US decides to leave, they fall like a pack of cards. No fighting, giving up even before fighting, surrendering. This is what the United States spends so much money for? Now, you might find me insensitive on this, but this is the point. Can a foreign country keep its troops in another country for more than a year? If you do that, it becomes either you are colonizing a country or either have took control of the country. Fun fact is, the United States have done neither of that. They were just doing training. If you look at it in a certain term, they went for a job, they got the job done, then they stayed back because of the reforms in Afghanistan. The reality is, the United States cannot stay in Afghanistan for any longer. Whether the people in Afghanistan now would say, please come back to Afghanistan or not, that's a different case. But the reality is, these are the same people who once did complain, who said they want US presence gone. Think about that. Think about Iraq, same fact. The US was celebrated once Saddam Hussein was gone, but once the pieces fell into place, they wanted the US gone. That's the same thing in Afghanistan. If the US stayed long in Afghanistan, it would be the same as like in Iraq. They would want them gone. And the reality is, if you train an entire army from the US, you have to be capable after this law. Trillions of dollars have been spent. Many American lives have been lost. And yet, is it worth it after 20 plus years? Is it worth it? If they fall like this, the answer is no one knows the answer for that. And the only people who know about this are the people who went to war in the first place. People like George W. Bush. They would know the answer. Now, right now, many media networks are complaining about the fact that the US preparations of leaving was chaotic and unorganized, and comparing it to Vietnam in 1975. But this is the thing, Vietnam and Afghanistan are not related in any meaningful ways. It's like saying, I'm living on planet Earth and that one person is in Mars. It's just there's no related to that. Relations. First thing, Vietnam was a war that hated by the American people. Dare I say this. The American media at the time once preached, said, get the troops home, get them back, bring them back. That's what they preached. People protested on streets, things like that, to end the war in Vietnam, to leave Vietnam. So it's nowhere near like this. So what is the change in here? I mean, from that in 1970s to this, where people saying that we have to go to war, we have to keep fighting, we have to keep sacrificing our soldiers' lives. This is the problem. We can't keep doing this for so long, because Afghanistan is another country. Afghanistan is not a part of the United States that we can keep keeping our troops in there much longer. Now, yes, we see the consequences of the failures. Yes, we can see what, because of the Afghan government's lack of ability to do things right, because the troops, all the things the American government ever worked for is now going away. The rights of women, freedom to learn, freedom of women education, things like that, future of the country, things like that. They are going for dogs at the moment. Yes, the reality is, end of the day, the liberties of those responsibilities fall back to the Afghan government. If the Afghan government can't do their job, the United States can't babysit them much longer, because this was a crisis that was going to happen whether people agreed or not. That's the reality. The moment the US troops were going to leave Afghanistan, the reality is this situation was going to happen. That's a fact. It was said many times. Iraq, same scenario. In 2012, same scenario. So end of the day, the factual reality is, I'm surprised that people are surprised by this, but you should not be surprised. The Middle East is a place where you can't reform that much, because the Middle East is always a place where war is going to happen. Once you get out of the Middle East, who knows, the United States might actually go back to the Middle East to fight wars again. Now, I see some people are concerned about terror plots going to rebirth once again because of Taliban's retake in Afghanistan. Yes, I understand that. But the question is, we have to take a fresh approach to this. We were so fast, so quick. We didn't think enough when we invaded the Middle East. It's time to rethink the Middle Eastern policy from the United States. How do we deal in the Middle East? Because everything we did in the Middle East is coming to haunt us back. Everything you see right now is the crumbling policies from the United States in the Middle East for the last 20 years or so. So that's what's collapsing now. Like the Soviet Union eventually collapsed. But unlike the Soviet Union, this is not a failure from the US most of the time. It's also a question about the Afghan government's abilities, or the lack of that. Simple as that. So end of the day, could President Biden handle this better? Yes, he could have handled this a lot better. Things would have been less chaotic. Maybe Taliban would have not overrun the districts as it was. Yes, but the question is, how much one man can change when your predecessor has already done the order and done the negotiating? And when the predecessors have already told the troops, that the families of the troops, that they are coming home. And is it possible for Joe Biden to say to the families of the same soldiers and say, your husbands or your families, they can't come back, I'm sorry, they have to stay back in there. It's just not feasible, it's just not possible. That's a reality. And I truly understand the pain and the sadness the Afghan people suffer right now. I truly understand. Who wants to be in their situation? But the sad reality is, they were let down by their own Afghan government. Their president who ran away from the country when this is going down. That's a sign of being a coward, not a sign of leadership. That's the point. Simple as that. And the US have managed, now the US embassy is now officially shut down, excluding for some contractors. But they will also leave very soon. That's a fact. A situation like this is always inevitable, people. It's always inevitable. Sadly, it's happening, but should have happened long time ago. That's a reality. So on that note, I'm going to end this video. Thank you very much for joining me on this show.